Hello, friends. Good evening. Good to see you, Adriana, Jens, and Gabriella, who says, hope you're all feeling the Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekkha from here. Yes, we are. And hello to Mark. And of course, hello to Bhante Sudaso, who will be kindly sharing Dharma tonight. The subject is the Four Brahmaviharas. And before we get to the meditation and Dhamma talk, we will be chanting first the Ratana Sutta. So there is a link in the live chat if you'd like to chant along with us. And then after the chanting, Bhante will be leading us in meditation. And after that, we'll share a few words of Dhamma. And at any time, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the live chat, and he will answer them at the end of the talk. All right.
So please join in the chanting. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Yani dhabhutani samagatani bummani vayani vantaleke. Sabe bhabhuta sumana bhavantu atopi saka chasunantu vasitam. Tasmahi bhutani sameta sabe metam kharotamanusya pajaya. Devacharato chaharanti eva ling tasmahine rakata apamata. Yan kinchivitam vidavahuram vasage suvayam ratanam panitam. Nano samangati tathagatena idampi buddhe ratanam panitam. Etena sachena suvati hotu. Kayam viragam gamatam panitam yadanchaga sakya muni samahito. Natena dhammena samati kinchi idampi dhamme ratanam panitam. Etena sachena suvati hotu. Yang buddha seto parivannayi suching samadhimanantarikannyamahu. Samadhina tena samona vidyati dampi dhamme ratanam panitam. Etena sachena suvati hotu. Ye bhungala tasatang pasatha chatari edani yugani honti. Te dakineya sugata sasavakai te sudinnani mahapalani. Idampi sankhe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu. Yesu payuta manasa dalhena nikamino gautama sanamhi. Te pati patamatam vigaiha lantamutani puting punjamana. Idampi sankhe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu. Yathinna kilo patavingsito siya chatu bhivate vyasampakampiyo. Tatu pamang samburisam varami yo arya sachani avecha pasati. Yedampi sankhe ratanam panitam yedena sachena subhati hotu. Ye Arya Sachani Vibhavayanti Gambhira Panyena Sudesitani Kinchapi Te Honti Musapamata Nate Bhavanga Tamanga Diyanti Yedampi Sankhe Ratanam Panitam Etena Sachena Supati Hotu Sahava Sadasana Sampadaya Tayasu Dhamma Jahita Bhavanti Sakaya Deti Vichikichitancha Silambatam Vapiyadatti Kinchim Chatuha Paye Hichavipamuto Chachabhitanani Abhambogatum Idampi Sankhe Ratanam Panitam Vetena Sachena Subhati Hotu Kinchapi Sokham Mankaroti Papakam Kayena Vacha Udacheta Sabam Abambo Sota Sapati Chadaya Vambata Ditapada Savota Idampi Sankhe Ratanam Panitam Etena Sachena Subhati Hotu Vanapagumme Yathapo Siddhange Gimhanamase Patamasmin Gimhe Tatupamam Dhammavarang Adesai Nibbanagamim Paramam Yitayam Idampi Buddhe Ratanam Panitam Etena Sachena Subhati Hotu Varo Varanyo Varado Varaharo Anuttaro Dhammavarang Adesai Idampi Buddhe Ratanam Panitam Etena Sachena Subhati Hotu Kinam Puranam Navam Nati Sambhavam Virata Chitta Yatike Bhavasming Tekina Bija Virodhin Chandalim Banti Dhira Yathayam Paripo Idampi Sankhe Ratanam Panitam Etena Sachena Subhati Hotu Yani Bhutani Samagatani Bummani Vayani Vantaleke Tathagatam Deva Manusa Pujitam Buddham Namasama Subhati Hotu Yani Bhutani Samagatani Bummani Vayani Vantaleke Tathagatam Deva Manusa Pujitam Dhammam Namasama Subhati Hotu Yani Bhutani Samagatani Bummani Vayani Vantaleke Tathagatam Deva Manusa Pujitam Sangham Namasama Subhati Hotu Etena Sacha Vanjena Dukkhavu Pasamentu Te Etena Sacha Vanjena Bhayavu Pasamentu Te Etena Sacha Vanjena Rogavu Pasamentu Te. Okay, so please get in meditation posture. And we'll go ahead and do some meditation practice. So settling into position, taking your time to make sure your body is positioned well. Take a few deep breaths, allowing the body to relax with each breath. And take your hands and gently massage your forehead and your eyebrows, gently smoothing away any tension, tightness in that area. Massaging around your eye sockets. Coming down your face to massage around your jaw. Until the whole face feels soft, pliant, loose, and relaxed. Then let your hands settle back into your lap. Bring a slight smile to your lips. And start gently introducing into your mind the phrase, "May everyone be happy. May everyone be happy. May everyone be happy." So keeping your face relaxed and soft, your eyes gentle, and that warm smile on your face. Just keep repeating this phrase in your mind. May everyone be happy. May everyone be happy. Bringing up the corresponding attitude of benevolence, of loving, bright, warm goodwill, wishing for absolutely every being with no exceptions, no distinctions, no variations. May everyone be happy. May everyone be happy. We'll practice in this way for the next few minutes. Just keep repeating this phrase, bringing up the feeling, the attitude, the mind state of gentleness, benevolence, goodwill, loving, friendly, kindness, without limits, without boundaries, without restrictions, infinite, immeasurable, vast, soothing, metta. May everyone be happy. Relax your posture. Do a little stretching if you like. Take a moment to bask in the joyful peacefulness of the mind. If you're the sort who doesn't do metta often enough, you might remind yourself, I should do metta more often. You might remind yourself, see how nice it feels. See how pleasant it is when the mind is full of metta. Just reminding yourself how nice it is to do metta.
Alright. Thank you, Bhante, for guiding us in meditation and for the kind reminder on metta. And welcome to some other friends who have joined us in the meanwhile. Hello, Edward, Marielle. Hope everything is okay, Marielle, or is at least better. And hello, Gita, Elaine, Kevin, and Gabriela says, thanks for the meditation, Bhante. So at this time, we can invite Bhante to give a Dhamma talk.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. Good evening, friends. This evening, the topic is the Four Brahmaviharas, which I like to translate as the four divine mind states. So it comes from the word Brahma. So Brahma in Pali means divine or holy or spiritual. And Vihara literally means a dwelling place where you live. Many people are familiar with the word Vihara, and that it also often has the specific meaning of a place where monks live. So Vihara is commonly used as a word to mean Buddhist monastery. But Vihara also has a broader, more general meaning of dwelling place where you live. So Brahma Vihara then is living in a divine way, living in a holy way, living in a spiritual way, living like a divine being, living with a mind like a divine being. So then Brahma Vihara, then I translate simply as divine mind state. So sometimes it's translated in other ways. Sublime abode or divine abode is relatively decent. That's pretty good. But briefly speaking, it's saying that these are states of mind, which are, first off, they're very pleasant, but they're pleasant in a completely wholesome way. They're pleasant in a completely blameless way. They're pleasant in a very peaceful, serene way. Again, these are the states of mind of the Brahma gods. These are the states of mind of the highest of the form realm beings. So these are not to be brushed aside. And the Buddha spoke about the Brahmaviharas over and over and over throughout the suttas. And in fact, this morning we were talking about the Attika Nagara Sutta, which part of it speaks about how we can use the Brahmaviharas as basis for developing insight meditation, as a basis for developing the wisdom that leads to full enlightenment. And the Brahma Viharas also are used as a vaccine to prevent the arising of unwholesome mind states. So these days, there's a lot of anti-vaxxers going around, and here's one vaccine that you should not be opposed to, which is the vaccine of the Brahma Viharas. Realistically, you probably shouldn't be opposed to any vaccines, but definitely not these four. So these four vaccines are extremely important because they protect our mind from falling into unwholesome states. They protect our mind from getting lost in unwholesome states. So the four Brahmaviharas, briefly speaking, are metta, which is benevolence, goodwill, loving kindness, loving friendliness. Karuna, which is compassion. Mudita, which is translated in various different ways. Sometimes it's translated simply as gladness or as joy. But it's also often translated as empathic joy or sympathetic joy, appreciative joy. And I'll explain more about each of these in a little bit. And the fourth one is upeka, which is usually translated as equanimity. Metta, which is the meditation practice that we just did, metta is the one of these four that usually gets the most attention, especially in the Theravada world. It's also the simplest, the most straightforward of the four. It's the one which is the easiest to understand, the easiest to practice, the easiest to see immediate benefits from. So metta in its simplest form is simply wishing for everyone to be happy. That's all. Very simple. So during the meditation instructions, I gave one simple technique, which is to wish, may everyone be happy. That's it. And if you do that with sincerity, then you will become immersed in metta in a pretty short period of time. Because that's all metta is. It's just this attitude of universal unconditional benevolence, this wishing for everyone to be happy. It's very simple, it's very direct. It's kind of puppy-like. There's no complexity to it. And metta is a vaccine that prevents the arising of aversion. It prevents the arising of irritation. It prevents the arising of anger. Prevents the arising of hatred. So if you're on the aversion spectrum, if you're an aversive personality type, then it's very important to do lots of metta. Because when the mind is filled with metta, it is impossible for it to get angry. When the mind is filled with metta, it is impossible for it to be irritated. When the mind is full of metta, it is impossible for it to get angry or to be filled with hate. Even if you're Italian, believe it or not, an Italian who does lots of metta will actually not have angry outbursts. They might still glare at you once in a while, but actually with metta, they wouldn't even glare. With metta, we wouldn't be prone to angry glares either. Nor would we be prone to resentment or grudge bearing, because we just want everyone to be happy, that's all. So metta is a really joyful mind state, a very pleasant mind state, and it prevents us from falling into aversion of any sort. The second Brahmavihara is karuna, or compassion. And there's another word in Pali which we also use, which is anukampa, which is also commonly translated as compassion, but the etymology is completely different. So the etymology of karuna comes from the root kar, which means to do. It's the same as from which we get the word karma. So karuna, it's commonly translated as compassion, which has, in the context of the four Brahmaviharas, it's specifically wishing for others to be free of suffering. So this is a bit more refined than metta. So metta is just wishing for everyone to be happy. With karuna, there's the recognition that there is suffering in the world and the wish for beings to not suffer. So this is a bit more refined. So while in the Theravada tradition, there tends to be more emphasis placed on metta, in the Mahayana tradition, there's usually more emphasis placed on karuna. Though commonly, the word compassion then is used to refer to metta as well, to encompass both metta and karuna into a single mind state. And this is because metta and karuna are very closely related. In order to have karuna, you must already have metta. You must have metta. Because why do you want beings to be free of suffering? Because you want them to be happy. That's why. It's pretty simple. But karuna has that extra layer of recognizing that the reason why people are not happy is because they suffer. And they suffer because of, well, mostly their own delusions, to be perfectly honest. That's why everyone suffers. It's because of their own delusions. We always like to blame other conditions, but ultimately that's why we suffer. But without getting caught up in why, karuna is just wishing for people to be free of their suffering. So it's not getting caught up in blaming or trying to sort out the particular conditions necessarily, but it's wishing for people to be free of suffering. And the importance of the etymology of this word, again, pointing to this root kar, which means to do or to act or to make, is indicating that karuna is an active quality. It's not just something that you produce while you're sitting by yourself in your room. Karuna is something that you do. You actually actively do things to alleviate the suffering of others. And this also applies to metta, by the way. If our metta is strongly rooted in the mind, then we will naturally do things to make others happy. It would never even occur to us to do something that would upset somebody else. It would never even occur to us to speak harshly or rudely to someone. It never even occurred to us to do something offensive or crude. It would never even occur to us to do anything cruel or unkind. Instead, all of our actions would be motivated by metta. All of our actions would be motivated by compassion, by this sincere wish for others to be happy and free of suffering. And we would try to do something to make that be the case. So an advanced Buddhist practitioner walking down the road and seeing somebody lying in pain at the side of the road would help. They would not just say, oh, it's their karma. They're just working out their bad karma. Well, sucks to be them. Bye. I'm going to a 10-day meditation retreat. Good luck with that, peasant. So this is not the state of mind of a Buddhist practitioner. The state of mind of a Buddhist practitioner is, oh, may they be happy. May they be free of suffering. What can I do to relieve them of their suffering? What can I do to bring happiness and goodness and joy into their life? That's the state of mind of an advanced Buddhist practitioner. And the other word that is commonly translated as compassion in Pali is anukampa. So anu means together with, and kampa means to tremble, to shake, to quiver. So anukampa means quivering together, trembling together. So again, that's implying this quality of empathy, of empathizing with people in suffering. So again, it's not this kind of apathetic of like, oh, those people that are suffering, well, I hope they get free of it someday. Oh, disgusting. That's not compassion. Compassion is like, oh, that poor being is suffering. So we recognize their pain, we recognize their torment, we recognize it. And we recognize that we have been through the same thing in the past, that their suffering is not separate from ours, that their suffering is a reflection of our own, that their suffering is a reflection of the universal suffering that we all experience. So we see that we are not separate from the one who is suffering. And we see that by relieving their suffering, we also relieve our own. So anukampa, trembling together. The third quality, the third Brahma Vihara is mudita, which comes from the root mud, which means to rejoice. So mudita literally means rejoicing, means gladness, joyfulness. And sometimes you'll see it translated simply as joy or as gladness. And actually in the suttas, it's never explained in any more detail. In the suttas, the term mudita is never defined. So the explanations of mudita mostly come from the apocryphal literature, so commentaries that came about later on. And the commentarial explanations are actually quite interesting in this case because it gives us something to think about. But I do want you to just keep in the back of your mind that the word mudita just means gladness, just means joy. That's it. So some teachers actually run with that. And they say mudita actually is a quality of joy, a quality of gladness. And they leave it at that. But commonly it's explained a bit more specifically as being joy in the good fortune that beings experience. So rejoicing in the good things, in the happiness, in the pleasure, in the wisdom that beings have. Rejoicing in the good fortune that beings experience. So mudita then is commonly considered to be the vaccine that prevents the arising of envy and jealousy. Because when you are happy about the good fortune of sentient beings, then we don't fall into envy or jealousy. It simply doesn't happen. Another aspect, by the way, of mudita, of appreciative joy, so being joyful at good fortune, is that then we become more generous. Because when we're generous, then we delight in the happiness and joy that we're bringing into other people's lives. So, for example, if you have a mango, and it's your only mango, but you see that your friend doesn't have any mangoes, and you happen to know that your friend likes mangoes, which some people don't like mangoes. So this is assuming that both you and your friend like mangoes. In other words, I'm not part of this story. So assuming that you and your friend like mangoes and you have a mango and your friend doesn't. The stingy mind is, oh, well, I better keep this mango for myself. I better eat this mango myself because then I'll get the most happiness if I eat this mango myself. And my friend doesn't have one, well, too bad for them. Maybe they'll get one later on or maybe they won't. And oh, well, either way, may they be happy. So that's not quite mudita, is it? That's stinginess. And if you look closely, you'll see there's an unpleasantness that tinges that kind of mind state. Whereas with mudita, if we've already flooded the mind with an appreciation and the good fortune of all sentient beings, then giving that mango to our friend, that act of generosity brings even more brightness and joy into the mind. Because we see the happiness and joy in our friend, and we have that same happiness and joy. We're filled with the same happiness and joy that our friend is filled with. Even though we don't have the mango anymore, we still have the same happiness and joy that we had when we did have the mango. In fact, we have even more. We've magnified that happiness and joy through an act of generosity. And then the fourth mind state, divine mind state, is upekkha. So upekkha has the prefix upa, which means close or near. And it comes from the verb ikka, which means to look at, to see. So upekkha literally means to look closely at something. So this already gives you a sense of a very important quality of upekkha, which is that upekkha is not apathy, it's not indifference. Rather, upekkha is when we clearly see what's happening but we do not fall into either attachment or aversion. So equanimity then is a vaccine against partiality. It's a vaccine against dependence. It's a vaccine against the precarious joy, which is dependent upon conditions and therefore is prone to failure. So with equanimity, we clearly see that, in fact, all beings are experiencing the results of their karma. Which means that ultimately, as much as we want beings to be happy, our ability to actually do that is limited. As much as we want beings to be free of suffering, our ability to actually do that is limited. As much as we appreciate the goodness that others experience, in actuality, their karma may bring them to experience all kinds of horrible things instead. So equanimity is also recognizing the limitations of our capacity, that our capacity to produce karma is limited to ourselves, and that others experience their own karma. So equanimity also acts as a balancing point that prevents compassion fatigue, as they're calling it these days. Upekkha is the balancing point, which keeps us from falling into the sadness of the world. Because this is another thing that can happen. We wish for beings to be happy, but we see that they're not. We wish for beings to be free of suffering, but they keep suffering. We want to appreciate good fortune, but there's not much to go around. So this sadness, this depression, this downheartedness can arise. But equanimity is recognizing, no, this is the way of the world. All beings experience the consequences of their actions, the consequences of their choices. Even karma from countless lifetimes ago can rise up and stab us when we're least expecting it. So this is the way of the world. This is the way of samsara. And similarly, when people are experiencing happiness and good things, well, once again, it's the result of their karma. So we think that we are doing good for others, but actually that other is experiencing the result of their own good karma. It just happens to be manifesting through us, but they're experiencing the results of their own good karma. So by doing good things for them, we are producing good karma for ourselves. So it changes our perspective a little bit. So equanimity, once again, is this balancing factor, which keeps us from falling into attachment and aversion, which is possible if we blindly practice the first three Brahmaviharas without wisdom. Then it's possible to fall into unwholesome mind states as the result of delusion, as the result of ignorance, as a result of a lack of wisdom. So equanimity is the balancing factor that keeps the other three in check, keeps them from getting out of control. So again, these four Brahmaviharas, we tend to put a huge emphasis on the first two. And this is because the first two are, one, extremely important. If everybody in the world practiced metta and karuna, the world would be 1,000,000 times better. The coronavirus would have ended like 3 months ago, for one thing. If everybody in the world had metta and karuna, the pandemic would have been over by now, long over. All wars would stop. Politicians would be a lot more tolerable and would make much better choices. For one thing, there'd be universal health care by now. So the world would be a much better place if everyone was doing metta and karuna. There's no getting around it. But actually, if just we do metta and karuna, then our own life gets infinitely better. Our own life improves dramatically. And the lives of the people around us improve dramatically as well. And it helps us make progress towards enlightenment. Because practicing metta and karuna, again, it prevents the arising of aversion. It provides a solid foundation for samadhi. This is very important. And also it starts to erode our sense of self. So if we are genuinely selfless in wishing for everyone to be happy and free of suffering, then our sense of self starts to be eroded by the practice of metta and karuna. It should be pointed out it's also possible to practice metta and karuna in a selfish way. I am wishing for all those pitiful beings to be happy. May those weaklings who are not me, may they be free of suffering. So it's possible metta and karuna in this very selfish way. I want everyone to be happy. I want beings to be free of suffering. I want those others to do better. So this is not pure metta, it's not pure karuna, it's not pure mudita. It's tainted by self-centeredness. So we want to watch out for that and keep it boundless and limitless, without preference, without prejudice, without limitation, without restriction. May everyone be happy, including yourself, but also including everybody else, without making any distinctions. May everyone be free of suffering. Again, no distinctions. May everyone attain awakening. Again, no distinctions. There's no need to stick self in the middle of it. You don't need to stick an I or a me or a mine in the middle of it. Just may everyone be happy. May everyone be free of suffering. May everyone attain awakening. That's it. No me, no them, no this, no that, no this group, no that group. Just everyone. No limits, no restrictions. Keep it totally open, limitless, universal, boundless. And then that selfishness has no place to land. There's no foothold to grab onto. So practicing metta and karuna, it helps us to erode our self-centeredness. Again, this is one reason why it's emphasized so heavily in the Mahayana traditions. Of course, it's emphasized in Theravada as well. But especially in the Mahayana tradition, there's a huge emphasis on compassion. Because it is such a powerful way of wearing away our self-centeredness. So I would again like to really emphasize that metta, karuna, and to a lesser extent mudita and upekkha, but especially metta and karuna are activities, not just mind states. So cultivating the mind state of metta is great. And we should also be speaking metta and doing metta. So the Buddha says in, is it the Chulagosinga Sutta, I believe? The Buddha says one should engage in physical acts of loving kindness, both openly and privately, in verbal acts of loving kindness, both openly and privately, and mental acts of loving kindness, both openly and privately. So here he's making it very clear. Metta is something that's not just done in your mind, it's done also with your speech and with your body. So it's doing metta, speaking metta, not just thinking metta. Of course, thinking metta is the foundation for speaking and doing metta. So we do need to cultivate the meditation practice of metta and karuna. But it's very important to make sure that we also express it through how we talk and how we act. Doing good things for others, speaking gently and beneficially to others. So I think I'll go ahead and stop at that point. I've been talking for long enough, and we can switch to questions. If there's any questions, you can go ahead and type them in the live chat, and we'll have some discussion.
Great. Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So there's no questions right now, but they might appear soon. And in the meanwhile, welcome to Bobby, AP, and Melinda. Good to see you. All right.
Well, there's no questions. There's no questions.
Well, Gita says, thank you, Bante, as well as Jens and Kevin. So perhaps in a few moments we will have some questions or comments appear.
Or maybe we won't.
We will find out, won't we?
I think the people have spoken.
Oh, Junie. Good to see you, Junie. It's been quite some time, actually, since the beginning of the pandemic. He's also very thankful, together as Adriana.
Okay, I think there's
and
no
Kevin
questions.
says, Bante wants so badly to wrap it up.
Hey, if there's no questions, there's no questions.
He
It's
doesn't
okay.
necessarily want to wrap it up. He's just an impatient type. But AP is now asking, where are the four Brahma Viharas mentioned in the suttas?
Everywhere. Okay, any other questions?
Adriana says, can I bother you for which sutta you referenced to just now?
I think it's the Chula Gosinga Sutta. There's actually a few ones. Actually, in the Kosambhya Sutta, the Buddha mentions it. But in the Chula Gosinga Sutta, I think that's the one, the name of the one where the three monks are living together in harmony. It's mentioned in there. There's a number of other places where the Buddha mentions this. So performing acts of metta by body, speech, and mind, both publicly and privately. He mentions this in a number of places. Yeah, but those are two suttas that come to mind.
Right, and Gabriela says, what is the sutta that references the factors of awakening in combination to the Brahma Viharas?
I don't remember. If you find the reference, send it to me. I'm interested. Yeah, I don't remember.
Right. I guess that's all, perhaps.
So Ayasoma apparently really wants Q&A tonight. So if she would ask some questions, then there would be Q&A.
Well,
I guess there's no Q&A. It's fine. It's fine.
I guess ask some questions, says Adriana. I'm blacking out right now.
Okay, well, there's...
No, Gabriela has a question.
There's mug chat tomorrow evening, you know.
Can you talk a little about the near enemies and far enemies of the Chitta-Vimukti?
So the concept of near enemy and far enemy comes from the commentaries. So it's not something which I'm that familiar with. And whenever this question comes up, I'm always forgetting some of them. So the idea of the near enemy and the far enemy. So the near enemy is something which closely resembles Brahma Vihara, but which is tainted a bit by some unwholesomeness. And the far enemy is something which is the polar opposite of a Brahma Vihara. So, for example, the near enemy of metta is affection or partiality. And the far enemy is aversion, hatred. The near enemy of compassion is pity, and the far enemy is cruelty. I can't remember the near enemy of mudita, and the far enemy is jealousy. The near enemy of equanimity is apathy, and the far enemy, reactivity, I think. Yeah, I don't remember. Again, it's a commentarial thing, and like most of the commentarial things, I'm not that familiar with them. Yeah.
And Gita is asking, Bante, are the Brahma Viharas also part of the 10 paramis?
Metta is, I think Upekkha is as well. I don't think Karuna or Mudita are. Anything else?
No, but before you answered, Gabriela already met an Upikawa. Gabriela is a very good Buddhist encyclopedia. Okay, so I guess that's all for this evening. And if you have any questions in general on Dhamma or on other subjects related to Dhamma,
Notice how she's drawing this out as long as possible, desperately hoping somebody else will ask a question.
Anyway, if you do have these questions that come up, tomorrow evening we will be meeting for monk chat. But tomorrow morning, Bhante Sudhaso will be sharing more Dhamma with Sutta study. Adriana says, I ask a question, but add really long pauses as you ask it. Oh, but look at Gabriela, very good encyclopedia, says, Mudita, and your enemy to excitedness, I think.
Mm.
And the far enemy of Upekkha is a completely unsettled mind.
Okay.
Doesn't seem. Oh, near enemy and far enemy, I see. All right. Well, I guess that's all for this evening. Thank you so much for practicing together this evening. And as Gabriela says, may you all enjoy the 4th of July weekend, also known in Buddhist circles as Interdependence Day. And tomorrow we will be meeting, and we look forward to seeing you then. All right. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May you all rest well as well.